I never thought a crumpled receipt would be the thing to unravel my entire life. But there it was, stuck in the pocket of my husband's jacket while I was doing our weekly dry cleaning drop-off. With a hastily scrawled note on the back that made my stomach drop, same place, 8 p.m. Don't tell R. My name is Riley, and up until that moment, I thought I had it all figured out. Jason and I had built our tech company from the ground up over the past 5 years, turning our shared dream into a thriving business with over 50 employees. We were that annoyingly perfect couple who worked together, lived together, and somehow hadn't killed each other yet. At least, that's what everyone said. I stood there in our walk-in closet, the jacket still in my hands, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The handwriting was feminine, delicate but rushed, like whoever wrote it was in a hurry. My first thought went to Olivia, our new marketing executive. She'd been spending a lot of time with Jason lately, working on our company's rebranding strategy. I'd told myself it was nothing, just professional collaboration, but there had been moments. "Hey, have you seen my blue tie?" Jason's voice made me jump. I shoved the receipt into my pocket just as he appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work in his crisp white shirt and dark slacks. "Which one?" I asked, proud of how steady my voice sounded. "You have about 20 blue ties." He laughed, that warm, familiar sound that usually made me smile. Now it just made my chest tight. "The navy one with the subtle pattern. I have that board meeting today, remember? Right here." I pulled it from the rack, my fingers brushing against his as I handed it over. Was I imagining the slight hesitation in his touch? "You're the best," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. His cologne, usually comforting, suddenly felt suffocating. "Don't forget we have dinner with the Hendersons tonight." My heart skipped. Tonight. 8 p.m. Actually, I heard myself say, I might have to skip it. I promised Ethan I'd review the new software deployment plans, and you know how behind we are on that. Jason's expression flickered for just a moment, relief. "That's okay, I can handle the Hendersons. They're more interested in the marketing side anyway." I watched him adjust his tie in the mirror, this man I'd known for 12 years, wondering how many other little lies had slipped past me unnoticed. He looked exactly the same as he had yesterday, but somehow everything was different. "Have a good day," I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. As soon as I heard his car pull out of the driveway, I pulled out my phone and called Ethan. If anyone could help me make sense of this without jumping to conclusions, it would be him. He'd been with us since the beginning, our first hire and now our lead developer. "Can you meet me for coffee?" I asked when he picked up. "There's something I need to talk about." "Everything okay?" His voice was concerned. Ethan had always been good at reading between the lines. "I don't know," I admitted. "I really don't know." After hanging up, I looked at the receipt again. The restaurant name at the top was familiar, an upscale place downtown where Jason and I used to celebrate our anniversaries. We hadn't been there in over a year. He'd said he was tired of it. Now I wondered if he'd just found someone else to go there with. I smoothed out the paper, studying the date. 2 weeks ago. The same night he'd told me he was working late on a crucial proposal. The same night Olivia had also stayed late at the office. Sometimes the worst part isn't the lie itself, it's realizing how many little pieces had to fall into place for you to finally see the truth. The coffee shop was crowded when I met Ethan, which was perfect. Nothing like the constant hum of espresso machines and stranger conversations to make sure no one overheard us. I'd chosen a corner table, my back to the wall, watching the door like I was expecting someone to burst in and catch us conspiring. "You look like hell," Ethan said, sliding into the seat across from me. He wasn't wrong. I'd barely slept, spending most of the night scrolling through old photos on my phone, looking for signs I might have missed. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, pushing a coffee toward him. "I need your perspective on something, but I need you to be completely honest with me." Ethan's face grew serious. He'd always been good at reading the room. "What's going on?" I pulled out the receipt and slid it across the table. As he read it, his expression shifted from confusion to something darker. "When did you find this?" This morning. But that's not all. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Have you noticed anything different about Jason and Olivia lately? Ethan's hesitation told me everything. Riley. Just tell me. Please. He sighed, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. There have been meetings. Lots of them. Always just the two of them, usually after hours. I thought it was about the rebranding, but. Last week, I overheard something. I was working late, headphones on, you know how I get when I'm coding. They didn't see me in my corner. Olivia was talking about some kind of restructuring plan. Something about streamlining leadership. My coffee suddenly tasted like ash. Streamlining leadership? We're the founders. What's there to streamline? That's not all, Ethan said, his voice getting even lower. Yesterday, I saw them coming out of that new Italian place on 5th. You know, the one that just opened? They looked comfortable. Too comfortable. I remembered that restaurant. Jason had dismissed it when I suggested we try it, saying it was probably overrated. Now I knew why. There's a board meeting next week, I said, my mind racing. About the company's 5-year plan. Jason's been working on the presentation for weeks, but he won't let me see it. That's not normal, Ethan agreed. You've always done those presentations together. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from Jason, working late tonight. Don't wait up. Another buzz. This time from Lisa in accounting. Hey Riley, quick question about these expense reports. There's some unusual activity in the marketing budget. Can we talk? I showed both messages to Ethan. His frown deepened. Riley, I think. I know, I cut him off. I need to see those expense reports. What are you going to do? I stood up, gathering my things. First, I'm going to talk to Lisa. Then, I'm going to find out exactly what's in that presentation for next week. Be careful, Ethan warned. If what we suspect is true. Then I need proof, I finished. And I need allies I can trust. As I headed for the door, I caught a glimpse of myself in the window reflection. I looked different somehow, harder, more determined. The woman who'd found that receipt this morning was already gone. Replaced by someone who understood that sometimes the people closest to you can be the ones you know the least. My phone buzzed again. Olivia this time, great news about the rebranding. Can't wait to show you what Jason and I have been working on. You're going to be amazed. I bet I will, I thought, deleting the message. The game was on, but they didn't know I was playing yet. And that was exactly how I wanted it. Walking to my car, I made a mental note to check the security footage from last week's late nights at the office. If Jason and Olivia wanted to play with fire, they were about to learn that I knew how to start a few fires of my own. Lisa's hands shook as she spread the financial documents across my desk. Outside my office, the usual buzz of our tech startup hummed along, but in here, the air felt thick with tension. I noticed it last week, she said, pointing to a series of transactions. These consulting fees, they're being processed through a shell company. At first, I thought it was just creative accounting, but... She slid another paper forward. The company was registered 3 months ago. By Olivia. My stomach clenched as I studied the numbers. Nearly $500,000, funneled through this fake consulting firm over the past quarter. Money that should have gone into our development team's budget. There's more, Lisa continued, her voice barely above a whisper. Jason signed off on all of these. But they bypassed your approval completely. A knock at my door made us both jump. Jason stood there, all perfect smile and expensive suit. Hey, what's going on in here? Looks serious. Just reviewing some quarterly reports, I said, casually sliding the papers into a folder. Lisa's helping me prepare for next week's board meeting. Oh, don't worry about that, Jason waved his hand dismissively. Olivia and I have got it covered. Actually, Lisa, could you give us a minute? Lisa shot me a worried glance as she left. I nodded slightly, our silent agreement to talk later. You seem stressed, Jason said, perching on the edge of my desk like he used to do when we first started the company. Everything okay? Funny you should ask. I pulled out one of the transaction records. Want to tell me about Mitchell Global Consulting? His face didn't change, but his fingers twitched, a tell I'd learned to recognize years ago when he was bluffing at poker. It's part of the rebranding strategy. We needed outside perspective. Outside perspective from a company Olivia created? Now his smile faltered. You've been digging. I've been doing my job, I corrected him. The job you've been trying to push me out of. That's ridiculous, he scoffed, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. You're being paranoid. Am I? Then let me see the board presentation. It's not ready yet. Jason, I swear to God. His phone buzzed. I caught a glimpse of the screen, Olivia's name. He quickly turned it face down. I need to take this, he said, standing. We'll talk later, okay? You're working yourself up over nothing. As he reached the door, I called out, I remember when you used to be terrible at lying. He paused for a fraction of a second but didn't turn around. After he left, I sat there staring at the numbers until they blurred. My phone lit up with a message from Ethan, security footage from last week. You need to see this. 10 minutes later, I was in Ethan's office, watching grainy footage of Jason and Olivia in the conference room late at night. They were huddled over laptops, but it wasn't their proximity that made my blood run cold, it was what I could read on their screens. They're transferring company assets, Ethan explained quietly. Creating a new entity. Look at the date, it's set to launch right after the board meeting. They're going to try to force me out, I said, the reality finally hitting me. They've probably already gotten to the board members. What are you going to do? I thought about the last 12 years building this company from nothing, the late nights, the risks we took together. I thought about the way Jason used to look at me across our first tiny office, both of us running on coffee and dreams. I'm going to burn it all down, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. But first, I need you to help me copy every file, every email, every transaction record. If they want to play dirty, they're about to learn they're not the only ones who know how. As I walked back to my office, I passed Olivia in the hallway. She gave me that perfect, practiced smile of hers. Everything okay, Riley? You look upset. I smiled back, channeling every ounce of Jason's newfound talent for lying. Never better. Actually, I'd love your input on something. Got a minute? Sometimes the best revenge starts with making your enemy think they've already won. The board meeting was in 2 days, and I couldn't sleep. I sat in our home office at 3 a.m., surrounded by printouts of emails and financial records, when I heard the garage door open. Jason wasn't supposed to be home for hours, another late meeting with Olivia. I quickly gathered the papers and slipped them into my laptop bag, just as his footsteps approached. He stopped in the doorway, loosening his tie. The smell of expensive whiskey followed him in. You're up late, he said, trying to sound casual but slurring slightly. Couldn't sleep. How was the meeting? Productive. He walked to the desk, picking up a framed photo of us from our company launch party. Remember this? How scared we were. I remember you believed in me back then. His hand tightened on the frame. I still believe in the company. That's not what I said. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. He set the photo down, face down. I got a call from Marcus today, I said, watching his reaction carefully. Marcus was our biggest investor and Jason's college roommate. He seemed surprised when I mentioned the board meeting. Jason's shoulders tensed. Why were you talking to Marcus? Because he's my friend too. Or at least, I thought he was. I stood up, forcing myself to stay calm. He told me about the private equity offer. The one you and Olivia have been negotiating behind my back. Riley. Don't. I held up my hand. Just tell me one thing. Was it your idea to push me out, or hers? He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. It's not like that. The company needs to evolve. You're too emotional about everything. Too invested in the old ways. The old ways? I laughed, but it came out hollow. You mean like honesty? Loyalty? My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan, files copied. Found something big. Need to meet now. I'm trying to protect what we built, Jason said, stepping closer. You're not seeing the bigger picture. No, I'm finally seeing it clearly. I grabbed my laptop bag. I'm going out. At this hour? Where? You lost the right to ask me that question when you started having secret meetings with Olivia. His face darkened. You're being ridiculous. Olivia understands what this company needs. To become? Yeah, I bet she does. I headed for the door, then stopped. By the way, that whiskey on your breath? It's the same brand I smelled on her at the office today. I left him standing there, drove straight to Ethan's place. He was waiting outside, pacing. Look at this, he said as soon as I walked up, shoving his tablet at me. I found it buried in the server logs. They've been planning this for months. The email chain showed everything, the private equity deal, the plans to dilute my shares, the carefully orchestrated campaign to discredit my leadership style to the board. But what made my blood run cold was the last email, sent just hours ago. Tomorrow's meeting isn't about the 5-year plan, I whispered. It's a vote to remove me as CEO. There's more, Ethan said quietly. Lisa did some digging. That consulting company? It's not just Olivia. Jason's name is on the incorporation papers too. They've been siphoning company funds to set up their own venture. I sat down hard on Ethan's front steps, the betrayal finally hitting me full force. All those nights he said he was working late. They were building their escape plan. Ethan sat beside me. The question is, what's yours? I pulled out my phone, looking at the photo of Jason and me that was still my background. With steady fingers, I deleted it. Call Lisa, I said. And get me everything you have on their new venture. If they want to play corporate raiders, let's show them how it's really done. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of revenge. I found Olivia alone in the conference room, rehearsing her presentation for tomorrow's board meeting. The same room where, according to the security footage, she and Jason had plotted to destroy everything I'd built. Working late? I asked, closing the door behind me. She startled, then recovered with that practiced smile. Really? I was just polishing some numbers for tomorrow. Interesting numbers, I said, sliding a folder across the table. Like the ones showing how you and Jason embezzled nearly $1 million through your fake consulting firm? The smile flickered but didn't fade. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. That's it? No denial? She leaned back, studying me with something like pity. You know what your problem is, Riley? You think running a company is about following rules and being fair. It's not. It's about seeing opportunities and taking them. Like sleeping with my husband? Now the smile vanished completely. Jason was looking for an exit strategy long before I came along. He's tired of living in your shadow, playing the supportive spouse while you get all the credit. My hands shook as I pulled out another document. And this? The private equity deal that would push me out? Was that his idea too? Actually, that was mine. She stood up, gathering her papers. Jason's too sentimental. He wanted to buy you out, give you a golden parachute. I convinced him that wasn't necessary. The casual cruelty in her voice made my blood boil. Why are you telling me all this? Because it doesn't matter anymore. By this time tomorrow, the board will have voted you out. The deal will go through, and your precious company will become exactly what it should have been all along, a real player in the market. Not some idealistic tech experiment. I thought about Jason's words from last night. Too emotional. Too invested in the old ways. You really think you've won, don't you? Something in my tone made her pause. What did you do? I made a few calls this morning. To the SEC, for starters. Those creative accounting tricks you used? They're called fraud in the real world. Oh, and Marcus's, you remember him, right? Our biggest investor? He was very interested in those incorporation papers showing how you and Jason planned to compete directly with our company using stolen intellectual property. The color drained from her face. You're bluffing. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, it's done. Email sent to all board members. Check your inbox, I said quietly. I just CC'd the entire board on every document, every email, every piece of evidence showing what you and Jason really had planned. Including that interesting conversation you had last week about how you'd phase me out after the merger. She grabbed her phone, fingers flying over the screen. I watched as realization dawned in her eyes. You've just destroyed everything, she whispered. The deal, the company? No, I cut her off. You did that. You and Jason. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. The door opened and Jason burst in, face ashen. Riley, what have you done? What you taught me to do, I replied, gathering my things. Take opportunities. The board's calling an emergency meeting, he said, his voice cracking. Marcus is threatening legal action. Good. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Olivia? That consulting company you set up? You might want to check who owns controlling interest now. Lisa's quite good at corporate takeovers when she puts her mind to it. I left them there, standing amid the ruins of their schemes. Outside, Ethan was waiting by my car. You okay? He asked. I looked up at the building where I'd spent the last 5 years of my life. Where I'd trusted the wrong people and learned the hard way that love wasn't enough. No, I admitted. But I will be. Did everyone get the new company details? He nodded. Half the dev team's already signed on. Lisa's bringing most of finance. Even Marcus wants in, says he'd rather back you than deal with the fallout here. Then let's go build something better. As we drove away, my phone lit up with Jason's face. I declined the call and deleted his number. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some are meant to burn. The emergency board meeting felt like a funeral. I sat at the far end of the conference table, watching 12 years of my life unravel in PowerPoint slides and uncomfortable silences. Jason stood at the front, desperately trying to salvage what was left of his reputation. These allegations are being taken out of context, he insisted, his perfect composure finally cracking. Riley's emotional response to company restructuring has led to. Emotional response? Marcus interrupted, waving his tablet. I'm looking at bank statements showing systematic fraud. This isn't about emotions, Jason. It's about criminal behavior. I watched Olivia shrink in her chair as the board members turned to glare at her. She wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. We should discuss the private equity offer, Jason tried again. The potential for growth is gone, another board member cut in. The firm pulled out an hour ago. Something about not wanting to be associated with potential SEC violations. The room erupted in angry murmurs. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was hollow. Empty. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just enough to keep breathing. Riley. Marcus's voice snapped me back to attention. As the co-founder and CEO, what do you propose? Before I could answer, the door burst open. A woman in a dark suit strode in, flanked by 2 men carrying briefcases. Actually, she announced, I'm afraid any decisions will have to wait. I'm Sarah Chin from the SEC's Enforcement Division. We're here to seize company records and electronic devices. The room exploded into chaos. Board members jumped up, lawyers appeared out of nowhere, and through it all, I caught Jason's eye across the table. For a moment, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with, scared, vulnerable, human. Then his mask slipped back into place. Riley, he said quietly, while everyone else was distracted. I never meant. Don't. My voice cracked. Just don't. You've destroyed everything, Olivia hissed from beside him. They're talking about criminal charges. Are you happy now? I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. You want to know what makes me happy, Olivia? Watching you realize that all your scheming, all your manipulation, led you right here. To this moment. Where you lose everything. Mrs. Thompson, the SEC agent called out. We'll need to speak with you as well. Of course. I gathered my things, aware of every eye in the room on me. But first, I have an announcement to make. The room quieted. Even the SEC agents paused. I'm resigning, effective immediately. But before I go, you should know that half your development team and most of your key personnel have already accepted positions at my new company. And those clients you thought were locked in? They're coming with me too. You can't do that, Jason protested. The non-compete agreements? Were voided the moment you committed fraud, Marcus finished for me. She can do whatever she wants. I headed for the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Jason? I'm keeping the house. You can stay with Olivia in that overpriced condo you bought with company money. I'm sure the SEC will be very interested in that transaction. In the elevator, my hands finally started shaking. Ethan was waiting in the lobby, concern etched on his face. Lisa just called, he said. The SEC is at her place too. This is bigger than we thought. How many of our people are being questioned? Most of the senior staff. They're saying this investigation could take months. I leaned against the wall, the weight of what I'd done finally hitting me. I'd brought down the company I'd built, triggered a federal investigation. And potentially ruined dozens of careers, all to get revenge on two people who'd betrayed me. Did I go too far? I whispered. Ethan squeezed my shoulder. You did what you had to do. The question is, what do we do now? My phone buzzed, a message from Marcus. Board wants to freeze all assets pending investigation. Including your personal accounts. You have an hour. I straightened up, wiping my eyes. Now? We survive. Then we rebuild. But first, we need to make sure everyone who stood by us doesn't go down with this ship. Sometimes victory feels an awful lot like losing everything. 3 months after the SEC investigation began, I stood in an empty warehouse space, surrounded by the remnants of my old life. Folding tables lined with laptops. Extension cords snaking across concrete floors. 20 of our best people, working on borrowed equipment, building something new from the ashes of what we'd lost. The server test results look promising, Lisa said, bringing me coffee in a paper cup. We could be ready for the beta launch next week. Before I could respond, Ethan burst through the door. Riley, you need to see this. He pulled up a news article on his phone. The headline made my stomach drop. Tech startup founders face criminal charges in fraud case. Jason's been arrested, Ethan said quietly. Olivia too. They're saying she tried to flee the country last night. A strange laugh bubbled up in my throat. Where was she going? Bali. Apparently, that's where they'd been funneling most of the money. The warehouse door opened again. Marcus walked in, looking grimmer than I'd ever seen him. You shouldn't be here, I said. Your lawyers. My lawyers can deal with the SEC. He surveyed our makeshift office. Impressive setup for 3 months' work. What do you want, Marcus? To invest. He pulled out a folder. Your old company's imploding. Clients are jumping ship. But you've got the talent, the vision, and most importantly, the loyalty of the people who matter. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Jason's lawyer. Mrs. Thompson? Jason would like to meet. He's prepared to offer you a deal. I looked around at my team, my real team, all pretending not to listen while typing furiously at their computers. Where? An hour later, I walked into the visiting room of the county jail. Jason sat there in an orange jumpsuit, looking smaller somehow. Less polished. More real. You look good, he said. You look terrible. He laughed, but it was hollow. Olivia rolled on me. Told them everything in exchange for immunity. Of course she did. I can do the same to her. His eyes took on that familiar calculating look. But I need your help. If you testify that you knew about the offshore accounts, that it was all her idea. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about deals or leverage or winning. It's about consequences. Riley, please. I'm facing 20 years. And I faced losing everything I built. Everything we built together. But you know what I realized? I leaned forward. Sometimes losing everything is just life's way of showing you what you never had in the first place. What does that mean? It means I'm not here to help you. I'm here to tell you that Marcus is backing my new company. We're launching next week. And those clients you and Olivia thought would never leave? They're already signing contracts. His face darkened. You planned this. All of it. No, Jason. You planned this. Every betrayal, every lie, every time you chose ambition over loyalty, you built this path yourself. I just decided not to follow you down it. I stood up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Goodbye, Jason. Wait, he called as I reached the door. What am I supposed to do now? That's not my problem anymore. Back at the warehouse, my team was waiting. Lisa had ordered pizza. Ethan had somehow acquired a whiteboard and was mapping out our launch strategy. Everything okay? He asked quietly. I looked at the chaos around us, the makeshift desks, the determined faces, the future we were building from scratch. You know what? I smiled. For the first time in a long time, I think it really is. Marcus raised his coffee cup. To Phoenix Rising? No, I corrected him, picking up my own cup. To burning bridges and building better ones. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. It's about creating something stronger from the wreckage. 1 year later, I stood in our new office, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold. Phoenix Rising had just closed its biggest deal yet, ironically, with one of Jason's former clients. The same ones he and Olivia had been so sure would never leave them. Champagne delivery. Lisa called out, wheeling in a cart loaded with bottles. Our team gathered around, no longer working from folding tables but proper desks in a real office. Faces that had stuck with me through the darkness now glowed with success. Speech, someone called out. Probably Ethan, the traitor. I raised my glass, searching for words. A year ago, we were working out of a warehouse with borrowed equipment and blind faith. Today, I gestured to our surroundings, the sleek office space humming with energy and possibility. To blind faith. Lisa cheered. And borrowed equipment, Ethan added with a grin. My phone buzzed, a news alert. Jason's sentencing had finally come through. 5 years, with possibility of parole. Olivia had gotten 18 months in a minimum security facility, her immunity deal working in her favor. Everything okay? Ethan asked quietly, noticing my expression. Yeah, I said, surprised to find I meant it. Just ghosts. Later, after the celebration wound down, I found myself alone in my office, looking at an email I'd been avoiding all day. From Jason's personal account, not the prison system's. I know I have no right to contact you, it began. But I've had a lot of time to think. About what I lost. What I threw away. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know that watching you succeed. Watching you build something better from the ashes of what I destroyed, it's taught me more than any prison sentence could. I closed the email without responding. Some bridges stay burned for a reason. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. Marcus stood there, looking amused. You do know we're celebrating, right? Just finishing something up. He studied me for a moment. You saw the sentencing news? And an email from Jason. Oh. He sat down across from me. You know, when you first came to me with evidence of their fraud, I thought you were motivated by revenge. But I was wrong, wasn't I? What do you mean? This was never about destroying them. It was about proving something to yourself. I looked out at our office, at the team still chatting and laughing together. I spent so long thinking I needed Jason's vision, his ambition. I forgot I had my own. Speaking of vision, Marcus pulled out a folder. The boards approved the expansion. We can start hiring next month. I smiled, thinking of the warehouse where we'd started. Think we should keep some folding tables? You know, to stay humble? I think your humility's safe. He stood to leave, then paused. Oh, and Riley? Olivia's lawyer reached out. She wants to make a deal, trade information about Jason's offshore accounts for a reduced sentence. What did you tell them? That we'll let Karma handle it. After he left, I walked through our quiet office, touching the desks, the walls, the tangible proof of what we'd built from nothing. My phone buzzed again, another email from Jason. I deleted it without reading it. Some people spend their whole lives looking for redemption. Others learn to build something new instead. I gathered my things, ready to head home. On my desk, someone had left a small wrapped package. Inside was a piece of the old warehouse's concrete floor, mounted like a trophy. A note from Lisa read, "Sometimes you need to keep a piece of where you started to appreciate how far you've come." I placed it on my windowsill, where the setting sun turned the rough concrete to gold. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. And sometimes, the bridges we burn light the way forward.